Anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They're deceived with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray.
You're working against this momentum. But that way, if I turn everything back, I don't have to make the play and turn it back. I made the play for somebody else. And so if a guy got 1,000 tackles, he may have just been in the spot where he's supposed to be and got the 1,000 tackles and never looked at the guy who turned the play. So it's so much to look at when you look at a football game. It's not like, oh, man, he got his leg knocked in the air, you know. And, all football players should be afraid.
Yeah.
Should be afraid.
Folks, we're talking to Ken Houston, Hall of Famer, NFL Top 100, and generally considered the best safety to ever play the game. If you like this content that we're bringing to you, please like and subscribe to our channel. It's all about the name of the show, again, is Way Past Due. We believe and know that it is way past due for Otis Taylor to be in the Hall of Fame. There's other guys out there as well that we're looking at. Thankfully, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, the Hall of Fame is opening up some spots for seniors, at least for the next few years. You're looking at an additional 2 per season or per voting cycle, with the possibility of getting in for the next couple of years. So we're hoping that guys like Otis, guys like Lamar Parrish, I would certainly think that you would want to see a guy like Roger Craig get in finally into the Hall of Fame as well. And some of these guys that have been sitting out for a long time. But
and Jason, before you go any further, we do need to make sure that people are sending those letters to the Hall of Fame Selection Committee nominating Otis Taylor, care of Pro Football Hall of Fame, 2121 George Hallis Drive, Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44708. Again, that's Selection Committee, care of Pro Football Hall of Fame, 2121 George Hallis Drive, Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44708. And if you don't want to do the direct letter, you can go to the website that Jason has built, and you can mail it, have us mail it for you for, what's that fee, Jason?
It's $7.89 is the total. That's with the postcard. That's with postage, printing. Now, there is a deadline on that, folks, to be able to get those in. They do need to be in by June 1st. So it's something that we're looking to, if you're going to get those, go ahead and do that within probably the next 7 to 10 days.
But don't wait.
In order for us to be able to get them produced and printed. Again, though, everybody should do their best to get one of those letters in. It's very important for everybody. And we're talking for anybody who's going to be getting into the Hall. You have to be nominated every year in order to get onto the ballot, basically. The one big change that I would say that we're going through, and I don't know, Mr. Houston, if you knew how it's kind of worked before with the senior class, they get in. It was a 9-person committee. Mr. McLean, John McLean from the Houston Chronicle, was a part of that committee for a while. I believe he still is. But they have now upped that one to 12. And when they get down to the final 12 nominees that they're going to whittle down to 12, then there will be it'll get to 6, and then the entire voting class. So all 49 voting members will be voting instead of just that small group. So I think it kind of gives a better opportunity, in my mind, for some of these guys to be able to get in, that you don't have some of the same people that are just going to continue voting the way that they've always voted. So I feel like maybe that gives Otis a better chance. Maybe it gives a guy like Lamar Parrish a chance to get spoken about, because from what I can tell, nobody's ever even said anything about Lamar Parrish when it comes to the Hall of Fame voters. So I know you played with him as well. Talk about some of these guys that deserve to be in the Hall that just aren't even really getting
Let me
looked
tell you how to go. I've been a part of the process on the selection committee a couple of times. And there are so many guys that are nominated, okay? So they can't bring all those guys to that short period of time where you got your voters together. So they have to go through a process before just to even make that group. And so when the group gets to you, then they've looked at all the stats, supposedly, and they got all these factors. They say, okay, so now these guys are the guys that you're going to be voting on. And you might go, whoa, well, what happened there? But I can understand that process too. So, it's complicated, but you understand the complication. The complication is made by the numbers.
Right.
So you need.
Well, it's just a large number of them that are.
It's a
not
lot of guys. I mean, it's stacked up that you believe.
Right.
And great players, and so I think that the last couple of years they tried to open up and take more. When the last 2 years they got more guys, tried to pick up more seniors and stuff like that. And then when they did that, it was a lot of guys got left over that were on that waiting list in the first place.
Right.
So I don't really know it's complicated. I don't care how you look at it, it's complicated. And that's, like when a couple of committees that I was on, there are a lot of guys left out that could play, but some guys deserve to be in there too. So it comes down to how many numbers do you get? Yeah, how many?
Right. Well, and I think that Vahe Gregorian from the from the Kansas City Star had identified, what was it, 180 something players that were in that backlog of players that could have been in. Now, are all of those guys Hall of Famers? Maybe, maybe not. But obviously, if we're still talking about that number of players, they were on the level of being there. So I feel like that's the thing, is that it's been so easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle. But so many people I know, when you talk to Lamar Parrish about Otis, he was like, I don't know how he wasn't in on the first ballot, first time he went up for election. He should have been, because and you know how Lamar Parrish is. He's not one that's any shy of confidence.
Right.
And he would tell you that you would get burned if there was one guy in the league that he feared, and it was Otis Taylor.
I played with Lamar, and maybe there is now, but during the time I was playing, there wasn't a cornerback as quick as Lamar. And I played with him.
Right.
With the Redskins, and I played against him in Cincinnati. He could run back punt. He could do it all.
Oh man, we were watching some of his highlights the other day, and every interception he ever returned for a touchdown was over 50 yards.
And, and so it was. It seemed like if they don't get you that first year, your chances start to dwindle. And the further you go, the more they dwindle, because they're bringing in people every year that they say these guys should be in, and that's after a 5-year wait. And so, I mean, you think about it, we talk about it, as Hall of Famers, say, man, how did I get in here? Because when you see the numbers are just overwhelming, but when you got a guy like Otis Taylor, or Lamar Parrish, or several other guys, and I don't want to, those two I played with and against. I know their talent, but everybody has a push for wanting to get people in the Hall of Fame. And so who would you pick? Who would you pick, ask yourself this question, who would you pick to be on the committee to get guys in the Hall of Fame? Who would you put on the committee?
Well,
I'd like to have guys like you.
Yeah, and I think yesterday when we spoke.
Yeah, I mean, who would you pick? And I feel like, yeah, like I brought some names up, the guys have since been inducted, but they were just kind of like,
right.
What happened is every day you forget yesterday. And that's where it is with the game. Then you move forward and you forget the guys that are back there. Like you'll be talking about Lawrence Taylor, and a lot of people going to say, "Who, Lawrence Taylor?" Or Robert Brazile. Robert Brazile was one of the greatest linebackers I've ever seen in my life, and he wasn't in the Hall. But it hadn't been brought up. And then when you look at Robert Brazile, and I'm thinking, here I am, a defensive back, played against him in an All-Star game, and I'm running down the field on kickoff. And so he's chasing me at 250 pounds, and I'm out running. That's what I said. And I look back, and he was running, grinning. I stopped. I said, man, I'm not going to let you hit me. But so the things that you don't pay attention to. I played with Elvin. Elvin waited, 16 years to get in the Hall of Fame? And Elvin playing broken off everything else. I mean, and so, I can say that, this guy, and I played in both conferences, so I know there was a difference in the conference, okay?
Right.
And so there's a difference in the press.
Right.
And so it comes down to the baseball deal right there, right? Who should be on that committee who's naming the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Right. Oh, man. Yeah, and to get us started on the Baseball Hall of Fame, man.
But we're seeing some of the same kinds of things where you have the number of players, and this is how I like to pose it. You're trying to take a spigot and push those players through the eye of a needle using the spigot. So it is so small that you only putting in one or two players at the most, and you've got this years-long backlog of players. And in actuality, if you look at just the wide receiver position, I did analysis of it, and on a 22-man roster, the wide receiver position alone is underrepresented in the NFL Hall of Fame by 13%. Now, that 13% may not be a huge number, but it is the highest number amongst 22 players on a football field.
The position roster. Yeah. And again, and I would think that the other one that I looked at is for players that started in the AFL rather than the NFL. There's been this age-long, ridiculous narrative going out there that the AFL was inferior. I think it's obvious that those first 2 years that the Packers were the best team, but they've been the best team in the NFL for 10 years. It didn't matter. They were the best team at that time. But when you look at the first 8 Super Bowls, 4 of them went to original AFL teams. So talk to us a little bit about that. Obviously, I think that again, these are one of these narratives that has kept guys like Otis out. Is that he had one of his best years. He was just against AFL talent. Yeah, you were there. You saw it. What was the difference? Was there a difference at all, or was it? I mean, because to me, you see a guy like Bobby Bell is a 2-time All-American. He chooses the AFL over the NFL. Mike Garrett, Heisman Trophy winner, chooses the AFL over the NFL. Joe Namath, #1 pick, chooses the AFL over the NFL. So it seems to me like, how is that inferior?
It wasn't inferior. I mean, when I say inferior, it all depends on who you're listening to, who's talking. Okay?
Sure.
So we knew that, I'm going to tell you what I saw as a player. I loved the NFL back then. Because it was 3 yards in the cloud of dust. We didn't have to worry about covering no pass. They didn't like to run downfield. Yeah. Okay? And so when you play the AFL team, football today is a replica of the AFL, not the NFL. Because it was 3 yards on the cloud of dust.
That's right.
Okay, so if you could put up
Right.
with somebody like a John Mackey or people like that, you block them and he wasn't that fast, or Mike Dichter, or you name it. But then you play a guy like
Right.
Houston, they got a Willie Frazier, who you guys probably don't even know. Play with Kansas City, he's running a 4.5 40, 200 sometimes. You're talking about.
Yeah.
So when you look at players in key positions, in all positions, see what conference they played in and compare them. Now you got your Big Daddy Liskers, who's not in the Hall of Fame, but he terrorized the TV. You got guys that were just awesome. Now Jim Brown, I didn't even want to watch him on the screen. He was outperiod himself. So they're good guys, but automatically they're Hall of Fame, and they're in the Hall of Fame. So see, the Hall of Fame is not about what you think. It's about who it is. You got numbers. You got numbers in every sport, but why would you think? Why would you even think about it? And we're sitting here talking now, or you guys can tell me, you run a radio show. I can even get on the TV tonight, this morning. That's what you do. So why would you pick me to be a commentator or anything else? And so
No football.
You have to look at how we do things. So it's not that you are wrong and I'm right. What did the stats say? If the police catch you on the radar doing, you can be in a Cadillac or a Buick or whatever, but if you're going over 70, you're going to get a ticket. So you look at the 70 miles an hour, no kind of car they're driving. So that's the same thing. You look at the talent, not who they played for, who they played with, or not who's doing what. Not the others. Give me the best players and I'll win.
Right.
Give me the best players and I'll win. Because I can play your head up. Okay? So, I think you see it happening with the draft all the time. I think. What are you thinking? This is already down. This is already down. Either I can throw, I can run, or whatever. You can't make me run a 4.5 if I'm running a 4.9. I'm gonna take 4.5 and train them what I want that 4.9 to be. But I'm gonna go to best period. So it's the reason why teams win all the time. Because they get the best
talent.
That's right.
Get the best talent.
Right. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. You look at certain teams that just never get it right, and there's the ones that do. And, when it came to, and I think obviously when you start talking about your stats and stuff like that, the differences between Otis Taylor's stats versus Bob Hayes' stats, it's 108 yards. 108. And then with Drew Pearson got in last year, and he's got 500 more yards than Otis, but he scored less touchdowns. And then you've got Lynn Swann, who didn't beat him in anything, but he was on 4 Super Bowl teams, so he's in. And again, I believe that Lynn Swann was a Hall of Fame player, but he never had a 1,000-yard season. Otis had 1,100-yard season and a almost 1,300-yard season, 1,297 yards. And isn't in the Hall of Fame, was an All-Pro twice, and was the only wide receiver in history that the UPI named Most Valuable Player. The same year that Jackie Slater won the Most Valuable Player in '71. That was actually probably your best season as a pro. You had 9 interceptions that year. Isn't that correct? Yeah.
And it was simply because that what we were trained to do. In Houston, you ran for the open field. And with the Redskins, you ran for the sideline so you wouldn't get rid of the ball or whatever. So as a result, I never ran a touchdown again for TV once I got to DC. And I had 9 before I got traded up there.
Wow. It's just the difference in the way you do things.
Difference in the way, like they had a way of doing it, but
sure.
I guess if they would have come to me and told me, say, what do you think? Since I was leading the league, what do you think? And I know it's much easier to operate against linemen in the middle of the field than it is on the sideline because I'm limited.
That's where the speed's at, huh?
Back. Everybody looking for who's going to get clipped, once you cut back.
Yeah.
But, it's no different than what you're talking about is life itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're talking about life itself. And I don't care what sport you're in or whatever. my deal is, you take these pads and you go out there and you cover Otis or you cover whoever you want to cover, and then you come back and you tell me. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not playing favorites. I'm playing who I thought was the best I played against, and to me, he's one of the best. And not only me, you can leave this and go to anybody that ever, even the guys in the swag before time, Emmett Thomas, all those guys that It's like, we had a track meet. I don't know if I told you guys the story. It was Bob Hayes at Texas Southern University. Bob Hayes, Richard Stebbins, Homer Jones, or whatever. And I threw the shot. I let it in the shot in college.
Okay.
And yeah.
Wow.
Had a hammer. So I'm trying to cross the track, and I almost got hit after the gun started. No guys running that fast, okay? And so it wasn't no doubt when a Richard Stebbins showed up in camp, it wasn't no shock to me. When Bob Hayes showed up in camp, Homer Jones showed up, because they could run. They could outrun, and the average person didn't even know who they were. True. Yeah, they knew George Russell was a great player. Well, it's a matter of who knows what and it's kind of like football right now, to me, is built for TV.
Yeah.
Sure. But it was built on the backs of you guys that started the league. I mean, when you start looking at that time before the merger, I mean, you had the NFL was popular, but it wasn't as popular as it's nowhere near what it is now. And it got that way once the AFL became a part of it, because you guys played it was the more fun league. You were throwing the ball more, you had more speed on the field, and for a guy like, and again, when you start looking at these numbers, and you have guys like Lance Allworth played more time in the AFL than Otis did, and nobody questions his numbers, and obviously he was great too. He was one of the greats of all time. And again, these guys, I feel like too, the other thing that never gets really said, because what ends up happening is these voters, they end up finding reasons to say no. And this is of course my opinion, but I feel like they find reasons to say no, and so they're looking for whatever reason they can, for whatever reason, to not let Otis in. And when you start talking about these things like, well, he played in the inferior AFL, well, that's garbage. And then the next thing is, well, his yards weren't quite as good. Well, they're more than this guy, and so in the end, what nobody ever talks about, though, is that Hank Stram's offense, they, on average, were about 100 passes less per year than the rest of the league, because they ran the football. When you've got guys like they had, and of course they had great running backs as well, but they ran the ball. And you have guys like Otis was a great blocker. He didn't run out of bounds and get out of the way. He wasn't trying to save his body. That's obvious. He never ran. When he caught the ball, he wasn't running out of bounds either. So, he wasn't one of those guys going for the sideline trying not to get hit.
But the opportunity to make more catches was not there for Otis like it was for some of the other AFL teams. I mean, Darryl LaMonica didn't become the Mad Bomber by sitting back and handing the ball off. He was throwing the ball, and so was John Hadle. And both of them were playing at the same time as that Kansas City offense. And again, it was more balanced, and it was more run heavy than those other offenses, which led to fewer passes going to Otis Taylor. But when he had the ball in his hands, he was special. Right.
And that's the one thing that I could see was that, wow, I don't know anybody that I've ever seen, and up to maybe Jerry Rice. I know the numbers that we've done, I can't see Otis any less than 2 or 3 on the all-time list as far as what I could tell. And he's right up there with the greatest of all time to me.
No. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I was just thinking about when you talk numbers to me. I think about what kind of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what he caught 100 passes, but did he catch? What kind of 100 passes did he catch? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Did he catch passes on the fire, or did he just get passes stand up behind the line of scrimmage? You know, it's like
was it getting hit or
quarterback
not?
now throw. You know, back then they couldn't step into a throw. They had to get rid of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Those different kinds of quarterbacks. You couldn't. We in practice we had a stopwatch. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and that ball better be out.
Mm-hmm.
That ball went out, that quarterback is gonna get hit.
Right.
You create a situation. How do you count a creation you situated? How do you count what's pure? I think that's why people are equating now, or they are drifting back to. I don't even like to watch it on TV. That's fighting and going on. You know, like that's scary to me. But everybody not doing
Me
it.
too.
Everybody not jumping in there to do it. Because the only thing a referee is going to do is stop you, pull you out of the ring. Okay? And so that's the way the game used to be. The only thing that was going to stop you was somebody pull you off the field. So it's a different game now. You create
no doubt.
You want to catch the pass. You create a situation where a quarterback can run around in the secondary, run around behind the line of scrimmage and don't get hit. You get there and you can't go at it. They take half a minimum away when I can't stretch out. If you tell me I can't hit him on his knees, what am I going to do? You got a 400-pound guard up there hitting you in the face, and you grabbing at him, and his knees are free. You know, what we used to do, we didn't even have to guess about when the ball was going to be out. We didn't have to guess about what kind of coverage we had downfield, because that ball was going to be out. If he was out, he put himself at risk. And so the game.
Right, but when you look at Otis, he didn't play in a time when he couldn't get touched. You know, he was getting beat up all the way from the start to the finish.
Charlie Taylor. I watched Charlie Taylor. We used to be. I'm on his side. I'm yelling for the defensive back. Watch out! Because he was gonna crack back on him. He was gonna put him out. He was gonna think about more stuff than just, And just, now you play football. You can play football around there with your head up. Don't look around for nothing. Mm-hmm. We had to look down first, and then we had to play football. But they had crackbacks, they had forearms flying, and receivers were tough too. Yeah, we couldn't.
Oh man!
Right? And so it's a different game now. And so if it's a different game, again, you should go and vote those older guys in. Because they played at a different time. They played in a whole different world altogether.
Well, and that's the thing about the Hall of Fame is, to me, and I think that, and I hope that this new president that they've got, Jim Porter, and he seems like this is what he wants to see, is more of those guys get in. It seems like some of the selectors are saying that they want that as well. But I would hope that you do, because here's the thing. If what we're looking for, to me as a fan, is I feel like the Hall of Fame has to be, if it's not a true Hall of Fame, if you are not representing the best of each era. That merger era is not the same as the guys playing today. Obviously, as we just talked about, the game is different. One of the comparisons I made, somebody was talking about, Torrey Holt needs to be in there before so-and-so, and whatever. I agree that Torrey Holt's a Hall of Famer, but he played in if we take a look at the year 2000, the year that they won the Super Bowl, the Rams, the greatest show on turf, he was one of 3 players that had over 80 catches that year. That's how much they threw. In fact, they had more completions than the 71 Chiefs had throws. So they completed more passes than they threw the ball, and Otis's MVP, second place MVP overall season in 1971, when he was generally considered the best receiver in football. So to compare those guys, that's not a fair comparison. Otis's best season was 71, and he had 57 catches. Torrey Holt had 87. That's 30 more balls that he caught, and had 2 more games too, and that's the other part of it. When you start looking at stats, it's easy to look at the number and just the number alone and say, well, he's a little behind here, he's a little behind there. But if you don't add into some context to it, of Otis played 14 games a year. These guys are playing 16 over a 10-year period. That's an extra 20 games.
Yeah,
those
are, to me, those are just numbers. Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
And anybody can have numbers. Now the deal is, you need to put up.
But they use those numbers, Mr. Houston. They use them against him.
But that's, to me, that's the wrong way to do it. The deal is, what did he do after those numbers?
Right.
The eye test.
What did he do after those numbers? That's like yards after catch, yards after throw. You wouldn't have all these numbers. You could have a guy have 15 catches in a game and don't have 75 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just tell him throw the ball.
You see it.
I can go out there right now. I can make a completion in an NFL game right now.
Mm-hmm.
All I do is go out there and show up the line of scrimmage and just step right back there and throw me the ball. That's a catch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a catch. Yeah. And so you have to know to me, you have to know the quality of a catch. You just can't you can't take a number. Otis might take a ball and run 20 yards, but he's hurt 15 people in 20-yard run. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and so you have to talk to the defensive back. You have to talk to the defensive lineman. Linemen know. Everybody know who's a great player. So I'm asking you, don't give me, when I say numbers, it's like you're saying, don't give me numbers. Give me the quality results. I can't beat you in a 57 Chevy and you running a 99 Pontiac. I'm saying right. So, and this is the same thing. I'm telling you, it's like when I watch TV, I almost want to turn the deal down. Because I'm looking at guys and go, well, he should have done this and he should have done that. What did you do? You had a chance. Tell them, what did you do when you had the chance? That's what you tell them. I wasn't afraid to say that I was afraid. I played hard, but I ran hard most of the time because I was trying to get out the way of them guys cracking back on me and stuff like that. It was that way. Yes, I'm running from somebody, But football. If you say I played football and I wasn't afraid, you need to just turn the page. I need to go to the next page. You better play afraid if you're gonna last in the game at all, because you need to know what you can ask me now. It was a crackback block. And so when you ask me about receivers, I'm thinking, why would I say Paul Warfield was one of the greatest ever? Because he would clean your clock. Mm-hmm. He's a safety, and then he would catch the ball. So he had 2 points right there. Mm-hmm. The guy would catch the ball and would run from an elbow. Okay? So to the mean, they got 1 point. So you have to know what you're watching when you watch a player. So if you got a throwing quarterback that can't get hit, you got guys now that got more touchdowns than Jurgensen, Kielman, and the rest of them like that. Oh. But they didn't take as many licks as those guys. It was a whole different game altogether. So you got to draw a line in what you see a game is going to be. You got.
Well, it seemed like guys like Otis, he liked delivering the blow as much as he liked, as anything else. He wouldn't necessarily run around you all the time. He popped you first.
We knew that, and he would do it. Mm-hmm. He was big enough to do it, and he didn't mind doing it. So you had more. It's more than, am I going to cover this receiver? It's who's going to hit me while I'm covering the receiver, and it's a lot of things go on in the middle of the field that people don't even think about. And in the game Monday, you guys know this. We over here, and a guy catching a 100-yard touchdown, and here's a guy on the other side of the field in the film beating somebody to death, and we all laughing at that, not what the camera focused on. Yeah. So when you get ready to say that this guy is this, and it's not what the camera focused on. What is that guy doing? And that's why I'm sure the selection committee had film, but they need film of all the guys. I guess we talked about it yesterday. They had this Brandon Gradishaw, his name, come up. We were laughing And this one of these reporters say, man, Granny Gradishaw should be a Hall of Famer. And I've heard that, and I said, okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they said, because he was around every tackle. I said, yeah. I said, well, why was he around every tackle? I said, the guy who made the play was on the bottom of the bar. And you never called his name because you can't see him. And so a lot of things are that you can see, and that's how you make your decisions. Things you can't see, you can't make a decision on, and that's why it's so important that whoever the selection committee is have to know the game. You have to know the game, and so you start getting people that you think is not supposed to be in there and stuff like that.
Mr. Houston, yesterday you had a suggestion that intrigued me, and I thought about it. And would you, as well as maybe some of the other Hall of Famers, actually be in favor of possibly becoming voting members on the selection committee? Because who knows better than you? We know the sports writers, they do a good job. But other than them, Hall of Famers, I think, and I like to piggyback on your thoughts, I think that you guys would be a great addition to the Hall of Fame selection committee.
Well, they have that in place right now. They had 2, and I think last year it went up to 4. But they got 4 guys on the selection committee. And I know the senior selection committee, they've always had 2 guys. That's because I was on the senior selection committee. And we had a dinner the night before the first selection committee that I was on, and I was with the sports writers. And I said, what make a guy think? What do you think a guy is that's a Hall of Famer? What do you think? What's your criteria for being a Hall of Famer? I never forget it. And he said, it's the guy who made him change the game. So, okay. And I thought about that. My question the next day is, why is Bob Hayes in the Hall of Fame? Because he made you change the game. And I guess one of the answers was, well, he only called 20-yard passes and stuff like that. And I said, why do you think he called a 20-yard pass? Because we was 80 yards downfield trying to stay in front of it.
Yeah.
I love that too.
And so it's kind of like, it's in any job to me, why would I set up a program like we're on this morning and I don't know how to do it? I could be no expert program setter upper because I don't know how to do it. So I got to go to somebody with the knowledge. And anybody smart is going to go to somebody with the knowledge. It's not about what you think. It's about what it is.
Right.
It is what it is, And so, I mean, that's just a good lesson for our listeners. You give your job thing this morning. And when people talk about that job, think about, how did he do that? What's this about this? And how did he do that? And what did he do? And how did he do all of that? So you're an expert in this field. Why would I try to create a field that you're already an expert in? If I wanted to do something, I would come to you and say, what did you see? How do you see this? I had done it myself.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I think it's a lot of times you're in a job position that you think you're prepared for, but you need to put yourself out to the critics and see if you pass the critics. They don't be at you all the time. But I want to know what you're thinking. So if you say you're a football expert, I want to know what you're thinking. How do you pick an expert? I mean, what are you saying? It's like we talked this morning about this guy got 100 catches. What kind of catches does he have? Does he have 105-yard catches? Does he have 106-yard catches? Or does he have 2 90-yard catches and 1 10-yard catch? Which one are you going to take? I'm going to take the one with the 2 90s. And he doesn't have but 3 catches. Okay? So it changes how you look at things.
Sure. Obviously, talking to Hall of Famer Ken Houston here today. Folks, like and subscribe our page. If you're enjoying the content as we're enjoying giving it to you, make sure to subscribe. And we're talking to the best safety to ever do it. Look at this. I mean, Kerwin, are you watching this online? You could play
Mr. Houston. But I see Ken Houston running down the field untouched.
It looks like you could have played receiver. The way you grabbing some of those balls and taking it back to the house that way. Yeah. Now, for the longest time, you actually led the all-time interception returns for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Look at that. These is like you were shot out of a cannon.
It was the difference because he went that all-time. Devin Hester was the one that broke the record, but they were counting kickoff returns. Whatever. They were turning defensive touchdowns, and so at that time we were counting on only interceptions. I think I had a
right.
Yeah, I had a couple of fumble recoveries. Well, I ran back for touchdowns. I had a kickoff. I ran back, and they're not even picking in. So the only thing they were picking on mine was touchdowns by interception. And again, that's the change in the thinking process. And they got another line.
Well, I think it's because everybody has to have a number to put next to something, to equate this. It's just garbage. I feel like it's gotten away from that eye test of, if you can show me somebody who's going to run away from an offensive player like that, that passes my eye test. When you look at Otis Taylor taking shots, not going, look at this. I mean, look at these delivering these blows that you are. And, shot out of a cannon, here you go. You just instinctive play. You can tell a football player when you see him. And I think that a lot of times we've gotten away from that in recent years because you start looking at, I heard there was a guy on one of those forums, and I try not to even look at them because they drive me nuts, that, he wasn't nothing special, talking about Otis Taylor, but
he
nothing
was
special. The guy was 220 pounds, 6'3", and was running a sub 4.540 and was so quick and might run you over, but he might run around you too. Good grief. He's catching footballs that nobody else is catching. Let me say it like this. Too.
Again, he may not have been the best of all time because I didn't see it. Okay? But he is one of the best of all time. He is one when you like you're talking to me now, or you talk to people around the league or people that know, they go, Otis Taylor. And it's not the only time this name come up now. It come up in every function. Why Otis in the hall? Why Otis? And it's like, and so when the names keep coming so much, you gotta question this. You gotta look at. Let me see a film of Otis like this. The one you showed of Otis. I still like to watch that film. I take that film and I compare it to anybody that's in the hall right now, anybody that's in the league, anybody who's ever played the game. If you only had a film to go by, and just go by the film, you would probably pick him as one of the all-time greats. Yeah.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Again, I wasn't born until a year after he stopped playing football. And I know I've been watching football for as long as I can remember. And, my dad and I, we were big Oklahoma fans. And we've been watching football. Just constant. I can remember guys as far back as, Billy Sims and guys like that played at Oklahoma. But I didn't know about Otis until the last few months. And I can tell you that I've never seen anybody that I thought was better ever. Other than maybe Jerry Rice is the only guy that I can ever think of that might have that just did things a little different too, because Jerry would catch that little hitch pass and turn it into a touchdown also.
All-time great.
And
you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's how you put guys of what you guys are doing right now. What you want are the all-time great. Yeah, that's what you want.
That's
so
right.
If you say he's one of them, then and the thing you have going for him, it's not like Jack Johnson. I didn't know who Jack Johnson was until I saw a film of him. But I'm thinking, boy, I wouldn't want to fight that guy.
Woo. Me neither.
You see in a sport. You know, I mean, so, well, man, I wouldn't want to deal with him. You know, but then you have to, I can't have an ego and pick who I think is the best. I have to pick who shows up the best, who has the best numbers, and let me, if I see them, that's additional information. So what do you see? What do you see? You know, you get them in a. I'm telling you, I don't see anybody better than them.
But there's no excuse to not be able to see him anymore. You know, used to, if you wanted to talk back in the 80s, whenever he first became eligible for the Hall, that maybe not enough people knew. Okay, I can maybe agree to that. But then again, maybe not. But in the end, like, I can see how he kind of got lost in the shuffle after the 25-year wait between the first 5 years and then later. A lot of football got played in between those times, you know. But to be able to go on YouTube or anywhere else and look at this man and what he did, and if you can go and look at that video that we keep showing here, and tell me that that's not a Hall of Famer, I wanted you to get your eyes checked. Because that guy is, there's no way that you can name more than a handful of guys that are anywhere close to him.
Yeah. And, you know, Jason, that's part of what we're trying to do right now. Make the comparisons, but make sure that we are comparing players to players, but again, not saying this person does not belong in the Hall of Fame, but this person is in the Hall of Fame, then Otis also belongs. Yeah,
correct.
That's where we.
Well, the thing about Otis, my deal is, you don't have to compare him to anybody. He should be there on his own merit because he played the game like it's supposed to be played. He played the game when it was a little bit different because it was a little bit more physical. You know, it was a little bit more dangerous to play the game. And he did that with all the physicality and the danger. And he was a Hall of Famer during that time when, you know, just catching the ball. You didn't have to run. You had to run for your life, you know. And so it was just a different thing altogether.
Yeah. It definitely was. And, you know, it was a different game. And that's the point of it, is that, to me, I don't want to hear people trying to compare him to, say, I didn't like the Torrey Holt thing, you know, and it bothered me that anybody would bring up Torrey Holt, because I felt like, you know, look, put Otis on that team for a couple of years, see what he does. You know, could you imagine him in an offense that completed 390 passes in a season? They didn't take 390 passes in a season when it came to the Chiefs at any point of time. You know, even put him on the Chargers or somebody like that they threw 150 more times a year than what the Chiefs did. You look at his numbers then. If you think they're close now, just imagine him, say, playing for, like you said, with John Hadle or with Daryl LaMonica in the Raiders. They were ripping it. You know, they were throwing the football. You know, so again, guys, we're talking to a Hall of Famer, Ken Houston, former Houston Oiler, former Washington Redskin, 12 consecutive Pro Bowls. That's insane, right? In and of itself. These days, it's a little different to get in the Pro Bowl than the way it was at that time. So to me, we are definitely in the presence of greatness here. We love talking football. We really appreciate you coming on the show again today, Mr. Houston. I don't know, we didn't really talk a whole lot about it. We keep referring to yesterday. This is the second time we've had this conversation. Yours truly kind of screwed up the video yesterday.
Okay.
So, he had to come back on. Thankfully, you were graceful enough to do that with us, Mr. Houston. We've definitely appreciated it. But again, if you like this, like and subscribe. You know, we want to bring more of this to you. And it is really, to us, it is way past due for guys like Otis Taylor to get into the Hall of Fame. And we knew that to be able to talk to somebody like Mr. Houston is just so, to me, it's an honor to be able to have done it. And now 2 days in a row. So again, we appreciate that. And
Jason,
we look forward
Jason,
to.
let's not forget to send those cards and letters. And you can do that for free. Send your nominations to the Hall of Fame. Each nomination that is sent into the Hall of Fame will be sent to the selectors. So you, as a fan, can send your vote in for a Hall of or your nomination for Otis Taylor, and each one of them will count towards a nomination towards Otis Taylor. And that address is Hall of Fame address, Selection Committee, care of Pro Football Hall of Fame, 2121 George Hallis Drive, Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44708. And again, we're going to be putting that address out. And if you don't want to do it for free, we will, again, provide access to, and we will mail a nomination into the Hall of Fame for you for a fee. So,
that's correct.
You can do it.
That's going to be on the website there. We have it at, it's at Otis Taylor, OTIS, the number Otis Taylor, OTISTAYLOR, the number 4, HOF.com. Those postcards, those mailers are available there. We have a deadline on that though, folks. So if you're going to do that, if we're going to go that route, we have about 10 days to where we can produce them. We haven't produced, but in order to be able to get them on time for June 1st.
And those are
the way that it's going to go this year. Yeah, the way that it's going to go this year is going to be a little different. With them adding the additional 2, they've added 3 selectors to the senior committee. And then once it gets down to the finalists, they're going to put that out to all 49 voters. So it's going to be a little bit different process this year. But June 1 is the nomination cutoff. So we need to make sure that we get everything in by then. So again, you're looking at 2121 George Hallis Drive, Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44708. You can address all your nominations for the Hall of Fame. And folks, I would encourage you to take a look at some of these other guys that played during the era that Mr. Houston and Otis Taylor played in. Guys like Lamar Parrish. This is an 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro that's never been discussed. Never been discussed. We heard Mr. Houston himself say there's not a whole lot of guys ever that have done it the way that Lamar Parrish did it. It's ridiculous to me that a guy like that wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. You got guys like, somebody that I grew up watching, Roger Craig. The guy was the first to ever have 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in the same season. There's 4 guys all time with more Super Bowl yardage than Roger Craig, and he's never been a finalist. Why? And get your nominations out there, make your voice heard, and let's talk about it. We love to talk about it. And again, tell us a little bit about Lamar Parrish again. I know you said you played with him, so what kind of player was he,
Lamar,
Mr. Houston?
And he was, I guess, the best way to describe him. He always reminded me of a baby dragging a dog. Yeah, that's how he was. Wherever that dog go, wherever that baby go, that dog would be there. It's like like a dog on a chain. And he had there was nobody quicker. Yeah, Alex Break and stuff like that. He was not only he was quick, he was fast. He was fast. And he didn't fear nobody taking him on man to man. He was at Cincinnati. And Cincinnati at that time, he played Cincinnati. It was like you just kind of buried. You didn't know much about it. Now, if George Allen went for him, then George studied players. He didn't study personality, he studied players. So if you could play, you could play there, okay? And so that's when I really, he ran back punts. He was quick. He was fast. He was doable. He was a kind. If you had to pick a corner right now, you pick a Lamar Parrish. That's how he was, and it was just. And I guess I was fortunate enough to play on teams that had players. Everybody got players, but some players stand out, and Lamar stand out with anybody. He's a cornerback that has been forgotten. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not that.
And then he definitely has. Like I said, he's never even been discussed.
Or anything like that. But when you bring up names of corners, people remember who played last year and whatever. But when you go to the all-time, whatever, he used to be mentioned in that all-time group.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is coming from a Hall of Famer. When you get a Hall of Fame endorsement like that, I think that it's time for them to start taking a look at that. And I don't know how you can have 8 Pro Bowl selections and be a 3-time first-team All-Pro and not even be discussed amongst the committee.
But you know what, though? He could have been discussed among. I know the committee discussed a whole bunch of players, okay? And when they get down to who do you select, they put together a list of whatever, and then it comes down to who's the best out of what and who's the best in every position. What kind of numbers do we have to work with? And sometimes your name just doesn't show up. You're in the discussion, but it just doesn't show up in that final group. And it when it was 5, it was really tough. When you're picking with 5 Hall of Famers, in the last couple of years they had those numbers where they put in a lot of old guys, and they had a lot of.
Yeah, like they did 20 and 2020.
So I think about Harold Carmichael, the safety from Pittsburgh. All those guys have been on that list forever. The guy from Denver, and so I don't know. I don't know the answer, but what I do know is when you're asking about a player, I can tell you what I think about that player. And start with Otis. He's one of the best I've ever seen. Okay, I mean that's just me. I didn't say he deserved nothing or whatever, but I'm just saying out of players that I've played against, he's one of the best I've ever seen.
And that's what we respect that. And again, that was one of the things that we talked about yesterday, and we're saying it again, is that one of the first things that I told Kerwin and the rest of the group whenever I got involved is that we're not gonna be in the business of disrespecting Hall of Famers. We're just not going to do it. And so we're not. We do have to, it's our job to make a comparison and to say if this man is in the Hall of Fame, then Otis better be in. Because then I do feel that way. I mean, when you start looking at some of these numbers and some of the way that things were, again, if I look at even if you want to compare him to, say, Torrey Holt, I can tell you that he had the exact same yards per game number in 1971 that Torrey Holt had in 2000. The difference was 500 yards for the season. Why is that? Well, because he caught 30 more footballs, and he was able to, and he was in an offense that threw it that much. Does that diminish either one of their greatness? No. But if you don't look at that entire number, you got somebody that says, well, look at Torrey Holt. He's got so many more yards. He had so many more opportunities. Like I said, if you just give, I can only imagine Otis ever playing in an offense like that, like what he would have done. He would have been a terror for everybody to have to deal with if he was getting 10, 12 targets a game.
Let's equate this to another sport right quick. Boxing always mind. And after every round, they count the number of punches that were thrown and the number of punches that connected. So you get in the ring with 2 fighters, and
Correct.
One of them might throw 80 punches and land 3, or land 25 or 30. And one might let throw 1 punch and knock you out. And the fight is over, it's already won. Okay? So that's why
Absolutely.
I don't really get into the numbers, but what punch knocked you out? So if I got to go up there and cover a guy who can take it 90 yards to the barn, and I can take cover a guy who's going to get 5 yards of crack, and they got to go 100 yards, which one are you going to take? So that's where the numbers fuzzy.
They are fuzzy, and I agree with you there. That there's a lot of ways to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times that the way that the numbers get looked at is just not the right way.
And I agree with you on that. I totally agree with you. Like, I might have 100 catches, but he's got 40 yards. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I mean, and like I said, I feel like Torrey Holt's 2000 season, I'm not bad-mouthing him at all. What I'm telling you is that if you sit there and tell me that you know he's a better player than Otis Taylor, then I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. Because Otis Taylor's best season, or one of his best seasons, it was his best catch season, he had 30 less catches than what Torrey Holt's best season was, but they averaged the same amount of yards per game that season. You know, Otis played 2 less regular season games as well. So, I mean, you can just, with 30 less catches, same amount of yards per game, same amount of yards per catch also, it made up the difference. That was why he only had X amount of yards as compared to when you start looking at some of these other guys. Even within his era, you could say the same thing. A guy like Lance Allworth was going to catch 40 more footballs a year sometimes than what Otis was going to catch because they threw the ball a little bit more in San Diego, you know, quite a bit more. So it's just, I wish that they would, you get a little more context a lot of times with some of these numbers that people like to throw out there is all I'm saying. And that way, again, I'm with you. Does he pass the eye test? Because when you look at Otis Taylor, and now there's no reason in the world you can't, he's there. It's on YouTube. We're showing him all the time, you know, and there's been others too. What did Vincent Turner, on that 100 yards of football, Vincent Turner said, watching Otis Taylor was like the gravy on the potatoes. Now, I didn't really know what that meant, but I was like, I love it.
Yeah. But he's deserved.
Mr. Houston, I got a question for you. Is it true that when you guys would leave campus at Prairie View, would the bus driver go around campus and toot the horn to say that you guys were either there or you were leaving when you were going to a football game?
The way they did it, we had a certain time to leave. So if he said the bus left at 2:25, it was your job to be on the bus at 2:25.
Okay.
And when you get on the bus, he said, they go, hey, Coach, bring Otis' name up again. Hey, Coach, Otis is missing. He said, do I have 11? I go, yeah, running buses, you know. So
that was Coach Nix.
That was Coach Nix. He had that kind of talent. You know, he had talent that you would not believe. I mean, we didn't know what kind of talent was at that school. When they had guys, almost everybody that played pro ball played another position that they did in college, except us. And Kearney, you know, whatever. They had other guys played anyway. He had players. You know, he had players. And so he was just, I remember one day they had a strike. Players had a strike. I was scared to death. I'm from Lufkin, Texas. So after a while, it was me and another guy, Alan Aldridge. We were real good friends. We said, listen, we're going to go in there. We're going to find out what's going on with Coach Nix, and we're going to come back and tell y'all what to do. So they were all standing around the arm, and Ellen and I went on and went down to the field. And we were finna tell Coach Nix, say, hey, Coach Nix. And he said, go to practice. So we got dressed. Well, about 30 minutes later, the strike was broken. And here come all the guys. These guys that didn't come to practice, okay? Everybody was down there. And they came on the field, and they blamed Ellen and I, you know. And so we still laugh about that. and it kind of equates to what happened thing with funny or whatever, you know. And he was like that, but and that's what I say about talent. You know, he had talent. You might not have had a position, but you had talent, and so you got to understand what talent was and you know what it was, because like I'm saying, I'm an offensive center, middle linebacker in a rover, and I go to football as a safety. And you figure that out. Now, I can't figure it out. You know, Alan Aldridge, he's the center. Wherever he goes as a defensive end, all guys are all out of position. You know, but they were players. And so that's why I say,
football players.
You tell me don't tell me about who he played with or whatever. You tell me about his talent. And if his talent is deserving, that's all you can look for. Not who he played with, not if he played on the Super Bowl team that won 8 Super Bowls. No, did he have the talent?
Right. Yep. And I think that, you know, if you're looking at the screen now, you can see the talent is popping right off of the screen there. You know, it's a shame that he hasn't been in the Hall of Fame yet, but we're not going to stop talking about it until he gets there. You know, look at that. This is my favorite play right here, by the way he can just accelerate again and just get right by somebody.
Yeah, look how he's accelerating by those. Those are other professionals that he's accelerating by. You know, that's not a college team he's playing. He's running against pros like that. So, I mean, he was that good.
Look at this. How did he get that much separation?
He was that good. I'm telling you. And you know, those guys weren't slouches.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, that's I remember that Lamar Parrish. He was on that 100 yards of football, and he was talking about Otis, and he was like, "Good grief!" He goes, "If you made one mistake, he's gone.
Oh yeah,
he's gone. You'll never catch him again." And it's just, you know, to a guy like that. I mean, Lamar Parrish. If you've heard him speak, he does not lack for confidence at all. Yeah. You know, he. So for him to say that. And carries a lot of weight. And for, you know, obviously for a guy like you that's a top 100 all-time player to say what you've said here about Otis, again, we appreciate the time. But look at the touchdown in the Super Bowl. That was a 5-yard throw that he turned into 46 yards.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it, you know, football is what people feel to really understand. Football is a dangerous game. So
yes, it is.
It can strike fear in you two ways. They can beat you and they can hurt you. So Otis had both of those fear factors. He could beat you, he could hurt you. So then you're the third guy on the list. You know, so you gotta play all that game before you just can't run out there. Why you knock him down? Because he could have knocked me down. You know, it's interesting. You know, it's not that. You can take my fist and knock a guy down. You have to put your body in my position to understand who you should call or who should be, you know, like maybe in the Hall of Fame or whatever, because you know why a guy did that. You know, or you know why a guy didn't do that. So all these things factor in.
Right. Yeah. Again, folks, we're with the great Ken Houston here. Getting ready to wrap this show up, but again, it's just been a fabulous couple of days now. We really appreciate your time, Mr. Houston, and for you to give your time to this effort. I know that it's mattered to you, something that you've talked about, that you wanted to see guys like Otis and guys like Lamar Parrish and guys to be able to be recognized as a Hall of Famer as you have been, and we certainly appreciate you coming on. It's been an honor to speak to you. We've just really enjoyed it. Myself, I don't get too in awe about people very often, but
thank you so much. Yeah, you know, you got good guys and the guys that you picked or you think should be in the Hall of Fame, and my thinking is no different than yours. I might be a little bit more in depth in how the process works. And so I understand I understand the position the Hall is in too, because there's so many guys. That's why I don't want to get in comparison. Now, I'll say, well, you know, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame. This guy go, what about me? Well, you know, you should be in the Hall of Fame. What about me? You know, so I try to kind of steer away from. But when you get, to me, it's when you get an exception, and there are exceptions, and I think Otis is an exception.
Sure.
Right. I would agree with that. Herman, anything else you got?
Nothing other than, again, get those letters into the Hall of Fame at 2121 George Halas Drive, Northwest. And what's that area code, zip code one more time?
You're gonna make me pull that up on the screen. I just put up something else on.
I'll get it. It gives me a chance to repeat it. That's 2121 George Hallis Drive, Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44708. And if you don't want to do it that way, you can have a postcard sent via the website that Jason built. I fondly call it the Death Star because it can do so many things and like send out letters. So not only make the comparisons and provide us with information about Otis Taylor, but it is also functional in a manner of which we can make sure that that we get some additional cards and letters into the Hall of Fame. So that's it for me.
Absolutely.
And again, Mr. Houston, it's been a pleasure and an honor, especially with you being a Prairie View grad and part of the Southwest Conference and a Texas native. I'm not from Texas, but you honor Texas every day.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yes.
Let me say this while we're on there. Since you're so close, you got to call me and come by.
Oh,
yeah.
I sure will.
And
yeah.
I mean that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do appreciate it. And we will get together.
Okay.
You've given me your number, and I owe you one.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to show up. I'm not that far away.
Come together, we can finish our conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a bet. And we just appreciate your time. And when I called yesterday with the issue with our video feed, I felt so bad. But he immediately, he's like, "Oh no worries. Yeah, what things happen." I was like,
let me say this, okay? And I'm not being anything but what I think I'm supposed to be. God has blessed me to be here. That's why it's kind of easier for me to things that I thought were a real need. I learned that through the cancers that I had, and I didn't have any control over that. Mm-hmm. So when God gave me a chance to meet people and tell them that He's real, and without shows like yours or the radio shows that I'm on, I wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to people and at least give that message. All these years, you would think it would be about being a football player, but everybody has the same chance. So the chance is that you're living and you have something to add to it. And hopefully, the Hall of Fame is just a part of everything you do, but God is everything you do. You
absolutely
have the screen, you have the vision, and I'm really I was happy to hear what you guys are doing, and for you to say that you're keeping your mom. I've read a deal yesterday. It was on something, and this father was on TV, and he had gotten a ticket because he was driving his 63-year-old son. So here's a guy that was 93 driving a 63, taking care of. So the world it's about what we do and what we say, but it's about what we are. And so that's why I can appreciate you guys and thank you for what you're doing. And you got a screen, you got a message. It gave me a voice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We've so appreciated it today. It's just been I know myself. It's been such an honor, and we appreciate your kind words about what we're doing. We really feel. I know myself. I am so honored to be able to be doing this. To be asked to do this by Kerwin and some of the other folks from Prairie View. It's touching.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still